Hello and welcome to lesson number 39 in the workbook of the book, The Course in Miracles. So good to have you here. Thank you for coming back and being on this journey with me through the workbook as a student of the text and everyday lesson, right? And every day it builds and builds and builds and gets bigger and bigger. So today's headline is "My Holiness is my salvation." And the exercise was actually going quite deep again, wasn't it? Going really into the thoughts, the attack thoughts, the false thoughts, or how it's called in the exercise, the unloving thoughts. So going as well again quite a bit deeper. That's why I took some extra time. I started with the exercise yesterday, but then I took as well most of today to really build on it and use the exercise as much as possible. And I want to share with you my experience with the exercise more than talking about the text today and the teachings. So yesterday I had a few practices and using the exercise throughout the day, which was absolutely fine, nothing special. But then this morning, when I woke up, I went back to the exercise pretty much straight after waking up and thinking again about the sentence. So my unloving thoughts about ... are keeping me in hell. My holiness is my salvation. That's the exercise for today. So I did this straight after waking up and I suddenly felt different. It was a very funny feeling that I felt suddenly different about the unloving thoughts, about the situations that I thought about yesterday. They suddenly felt different today. I felt more neutral and not so much engaged with the problems or the situations that I used from the exercise yesterday. And of course these are kind of like my general topics. They are just not things that suddenly popped up or are just very short term in my life. These are the big topics in my life, and I thought about them, and for the first time I felt a bit of a sense of being able to let go of thinking of them as problems. And that's exactly what I talked about in the last lesson, right? That I had this sense that it was about not trying to achieve a new situation or change or transform the situation into something else that I would thought would make me happy or whole or holy, which would not happen, but rather to let go of them. And then this morning I suddenly actually had for the first time a sense of just a tiny bit of adjustment of being engaged in these problems, and even saw a bit of a glimpse of being able to actually let go of them, of seeing them as problems. So that was pretty exciting. But then it kept going. When I then sat with the exercise later again to actually reflect on it and going through the exercise again, I suddenly had one of the biggest realizations that I've ever had. And I do say this probably every time I have a huge realization, but every time I do, it does seem bigger than before. And what I realized was that I have a pattern in my life, and I know about that pattern. I have had it in the past quite often and in one area of my life, and I completely realized this. I actually know that I kind of let go of it in that area of my life, because that area of my life I do not live that pattern anymore. But then I realized that I just recreated the pattern over the last years in a different area in my life, which is very important to me, and I didn't even realize until that moment this morning when I sat with my eyes closed and doing the exercise. Suddenly I was probably ready to receive that information to say, oh, have a look at that. You are actually recreating a pattern that you thought you let go of in this area of your life, and that's why it looks like it does, and it's undesirable to you you actually don't want it like that, but it's because you recreated one of your patterns in that area. And it was just completely mind-blowing because of, first of all, getting the realization and never seeing it before. It's like, what the heck? How have I never realized this? And then secondly, because it might actually make me question the whole thing and ask myself, so do I actually still completely need this in my life? Do I still want this in my life? Or did I just want it in my life to recreate my pattern? So is it done? Like, is it gonna go out of my life? There were so many emotions inside of me, and I'm still pretty emotional about it, even that it's now nearly the whole day later. And I will probably reflect on it a little bit more and see what comes out of it now that I know. And now that I decided to, now that I know, I will obviously let go of that pattern in that area as well and not keep holding on to it anymore. And now it's of course a question, what happens, right? If you decide to let go of something, what does that mean? What is going to happen next? And for me, it is a really big question to say, well, did I just create it in my life? Did I just wanted it subconsciously or unconsciously because I wanted to recreate my pattern in a different area because in the other area I decided to let go of it? Or is this really in my life for as well a bigger reason, but I can just separate it now from the pattern and it will then actually transform and stay in my life? And I can say honestly that I'm fine with both of it. I think this was just such a huge realization that shook me so hard and touched me so deeply that I'm like, whatever it is, if it needs to leave my life or if it stays, it's fine. But I do not want this pattern anymore in my life. I'm ready to let this go in all areas of my life, and there are probably still other areas. But I spent as well some time in the morning to really write down a few notes about it, really trying to understand where this is coming from, just a little bit, not to overanalyze it, but just to use journaling as a method of trying to open more of the door of my subconscious mind for more of it to be shown to me, to see, okay, where else in my life is it, where is it coming from? Doesn't need to be answered, but it could be answered. And then just to see, okay, what else is behind it, right? How does it show up in my life? So I spent quite a bit of time today on it as well, on my walks with the dog. As you can imagine, when you realize something huge that you have not seen for years, then this will literally take over your day. And it kind of did, which is absolutely fine. I'm really grateful for it. I guess this is the work, right? This is the work that we are doing. And the more we grow, the more we develop in regards to going through the lessons of the workbook, the easier our subconscious mind, the Holy Spirit, God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, can actually show us to say, and here is the next thing that you're ready to look at, and here's the next thing that you're ready to let go of. And that was a moment for me today. That was huge, deep, and wow. Just so powerful and probably life-changing. I'm pretty sure about that. So yeah, thank you very much for being here today, and let me share my story from today, my experience. I know I didn't tell you all the ins and outs of it, but I will keep this for myself a little bit more while I process this, and I might share this in a future lesson or a future podcast episode for sure. I will share it there at some point to help others, of course, as well on this journey. So thank you for being here with me, and I will see you tomorrow for lesson 40 already. Until then, love you and bye-bye.